First, it was an imagination, and nowadays it's a reality that a hobby where the people who spend the most money on the hardware are the same people who panic the least about prices of video games. Sounds backward, doesn't it? That's PC gaming, and today, my fellow Moñaño gamers, that little contradiction is about to explain the biggest story in console gaming this decade. Because in January of 2028, Sony officially ends physical disc production for new PlayStation games. And while console players are asking what this means for them, PC gamers are sitting there thinking, we already lived through this. So today, we are breaking down exactly what's happening, why it is happening, and what it means to every gamer, console or PC. And here's the twist: the people who should be paying attention are the ones panicking. The dust has settled and the release dates are set. Well, not release date for this one. There's a deadline, January 2028. That is when Sony will stop pressing physical discs for new PlayStation games, and after that date, the new games go digital only. Your existing disc keeps working, that's alright, and Sony has been clear about that. But the pipeline that prints new ones, it shuts down. Now, my fellow gamers, this is not a rumor. This came straight from Sony, and to understand why this matters, you have to look at the history, the data, and how games were sold in 2026. And here's the data. In the United States, physical game sales has fallen down from $11.6 billion in 2008 just to $1.5 billion in 2025. That is an 87% drop in 17 years. Let's that sit for a second. The physical game market didn't just shrink, it collapsed. And by 2023, 83% of console games were already being sold digitally. Physical was already on life support. January 2028 is just the moment someone finally signed the paperwork. But here's what's interesting. When this news hit, the conversation split into two camps. Console players started talking about what they're losing, the ability to resell, to lend, to actually own the thing they pay for. And that's not a wrong question. It is the only question. Do you own your games or are you just renting them? And there's the PC crowd who shrugged, and that shrug is the whole story. Because here's the thing console players doesn't always realize. PC gamers already had this exact meltdown 15 years ago. And let's rewind. Steam launched in 2003, and at first, nobody took it seriously. It was a clunky little launcher you needed just to play Half Life 2 when it was released, and people were genuinely annoyed about it. But then something happened. Steam got good. The sales started, the library grew, and by 2010, physical PC games were on the way out. By 2023, PC gaming was 99% digital. The disk drive in your PC cases became basically a decorative fan at this point. Now, here's the twist. Go back to 2008, 2010, and 2012. Go actually to look at the forums. PC gamers were saying the exact same thing console players are saying right now. You'll own nothing. This is the end of the resale. They're going to charge us whatever they want once there's no competition. Sounds familiar? It's the same panic, just wearing a different graphic card. And I'm not here to tell you those fears were stupid. They weren't. They were reasonable questions about a real shift. But here's what actually happened. This is part of the story that always gets skipped. It worked out. Unfortunately, it worked out. Not because the corporations were benevolent. They're not. It worked out because one word: competition. On console, you buy your game from one store, the console maker store. On PlayStation, that's the PlayStation store. You want a game? That's where you go. That's the price you pay, and that's the end of the conversation. On PC, you have Steam, you have Epic, you got Good Old Games or GOG, and itch.io, and a dozen smaller storefronts, all fighting each other for your money. And where there's a race to the bottom, my fellow gamers, the consumer is the one who wins the race. So, why exactly do PC gamers not sweat price? Let's break it down because the mechanics matters, and this is where most coverage stops. I'm going to give you three reasons. Reason number one: the console model is built on a hidden tax. When Sony or Microsoft sell you a console, they're often selling it at a loss or dangerously close to it. That's $500 box cuts a lot to make. So how do they make the money back? Licensing fee. Every game sold on the platform, they take a cut from the developer, and the developer doesn't eat that cost. They pass it on to you straightly, bake into that $70 price tag. Read that again and hear this again. You already pay for the console, and then you keep paying for it, one every single game forever. Reason number two, competition on PC drives prices down, not up. This is the counterintuitive part, so follow me here. On console, there's no reason for a digital store to ever hold a real sale, because where else you're going to go? On PC, the stores are constantly undercutting each other. Steam has seasonal sales. Epic literally gives games away for free just to get you into their door. GOG sells you DRM free files so you actually own the thing. The competition is why a PC game that launches at $60 or $70 can be half the price within 6 months, and why patient PC gamers have learned to wait. Reason number three, the regional pricing and the long tail. On PC, prices flex by region, and the catalog never dies. Then that 10 years old game still run on your new PC and is still getting patched and is still getting discounted. On console, your old library is at the mercy of backward compatibility programs and storefront shutdowns. So here's the honest framing, because I don't do clickbait. Yes, a good gaming PC costs more up front. $1,000 to $1,500 is real money, and I'm not going to pretend it isn't. But that is an entry cost. The console model is a subscription to spending $70 a game, $20 a month for online new hardware every 7 years. The console is cheaper on a day one and more expensive by year five. PC gamers sweat the bill once, console gamers sweat the price forever. So let's put them side by side, because the comparison is where the whole story comes together. Upfront cost, PC wins the expensive trophy. There's no getting around that. A serious gaming PC costs more than a console, full stop. I'll say it so you don't think I'm spinning. Pre-game cost, PC wins. Cheaper launches, deeper sales, free games, DRM, free options. Subscription cost, PC wins again. Online play is free on PC. On console, that's a monthly fee, and it has been climbing for years. Resale value. Definitely, this is one place console has always held the advantage. You bought a physical disc, you finished the game, you sold it, you got some money back. That was the console trump card. And in January 2028, it will be the exact moment that card gets taken off the table. Upgrade path. On PC, you upgrade the part that you need when you need it. On console, you buy the whole box again. Now, here's what nobody's saying out loud. The console single price is advantage. Physical resale is the very thing that's ending, which means the gap is only going to widen. PC gamers aren't calm because they're richer. They are calm because they already made peace with a digital future, and then they watch that future get cheaper. Console gamers are being dragged into the same future, but they don't get the part that made it work, the competition. That's the tension, that's the whole story. Now, I promise you a retro lesson, and here it is, because this is where my whole channel comes into focus. What did retro gaming actually teach us about all this? The cartridges and the disc taught us something important. A physical game, well cared for, can last 30 years. I can pull a Nintendo 64 cartridges off my shelf right now, blow the dust off in contact, and it will boot. That ownership you can hold in your hands. A digital license lasts until the server gets shut down. There's no dust to blow off a dead download. But here's the twist, and it's part of the surprise for people. The lesson of retro gaming is not hoard your disc, because hoarding doesn't save you. What actually preserves the game is the community, not the format. Emulation, fan archives, GOGs, DRMs, free library, people who care enough to keep all games alive when the companies that made them move on. And PC gaming already built that safety net. GOG exists because PC gamers watched physical die and said, fine, we'll build our own library, one we can actually own. The console world is now only scrambling to figure out its own version of that. So when people say this is the end of game ownership, no, this is the end of one kind of ownership. And the lesson from retro gaming is that ownership will survive. It just took a different direction. It will be community driven, it will be DRM free where it matters, and it will be defended by the people who refuse to let their hobby die. So let's bring it home. What does all this actually mean for you, my fellow gamers? If you're a console player, here's the honest truth. The future isn't doomed, it's a repeat. You're entering the exact transition PC gamers exited a decade ago. The question you should be asking isn't, will I still be able to play my game? Is who's going to make sure I still own them and how much I'm going to pay for the privilege? Those are the questions PC gaming already answered. You get to learn from their answers instead of living through the confusion. And yes, in social media, I have been vocal about how I disagree with Sony and all this, but has to be a grounded lesson for every gamer. And also, if you're a PC gamer, this is your moment to be wise elder salesman instead of the guy who said, "I told you so." Because 15 years ago, you were the one panicking. Remember that. Gaming is changing, unfortunately. It has changed before, and the people who came out ahead weren't the ones who hoarded the most. They were the ones who understood that shift early and adapted. That's the history, whether we like it or not, that's the data, and that's the lesson. How many of you still have a shelf of physical games? And when was the last time you actually bought one? Because I think your answer says more about the industry is going than any earning reports ever will. Please consider to hit the like, subscribe, and the notification bell for more this gaming news and retro gaming. I also cover gaming news at my website, jesusgg.xyz, gaming news without the clickbait. This was Jesus from Jesus Gaming, Health and Success, and happy gaming.